Thank you. Let's take our seats, please. To introduce the forum, may I call on the chair of the organizing committee and the chief of the Inquirer Central Desk, Juliet Labog Javellana.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. President. We are honored to have you for this edition of Meet Inquirer Multimedia. This is the monthly forum of the Inquirer news platforms, the Philippine Daily Inquirer, Inquirer.net, Radyo Inquirer, Inquirer Bandera, Inquirer Libre, Cebu Daily News, and our social media and mobile platforms. Our editors, led by our Editor-in-Chief, Ma'am Letty Jimenez Magsanok, and our reporters are here, eager to ask you all about the burning issues of the day. We are also joined today by our chair, Ma'am Marixie Rufino Prieto, our president, Ma'am Sandy Prieto Romualdez, and other officers. We are broadcast live on Radyo Inquirer 990 AM and Inquirer.net, and on real-time on Twitter and our mobile apps at #Meet Inquirer. Our moderator is our Inquirer columnist and editor, Inquirer.net editor-in-chief, John Nery, and we are live as well on PTV4. I would like to call on our President and CEO, Ma'am Sandy, for her opening remarks.
Mr. President, Secretary Purisima, Secretary Coloma, magandang hapon sa ating lahat dito sa Inquirer offices at sa lahat ng nakikinig. To the nation of Inquirers, thank you for being here and tuning in. Mr. President, we are deeply honored that you have accepted our invitation. I know many don't normally like this type of format because it sort of like is very engaging. So it's we're happy that you have accepted the invitation. As Juliet had said, we in Inquirer have grown, and what we've realized is we have to be able to use this reach and influence to be able to get answers and be able to maybe also in a way explain, because all of us really are for the development of the country, and we are one with you in that. And it's nice that today we are able to have an hour or so with you and give access to the public and being able to ask, as Juliet calls it, the burning issues. So without further ado, I'll give you back to Juliet, and I'm sure this afternoon will be one of the most spectacular #Meet Inquirer.
Thank you, Ma'am Sandy. I would like to request Secretary Coloma to introduce our guest of honor.
Thank you, Juliet. Ladies and gentlemen and friends, His Excellency Benigno S. Aquino III, President, Republic of the Philippines.
Thank you, Secretary Coloma. And welcome again to Meet Inquirer Multimedia. It is truly a great honor for us to host today the 15th President of the Philippines and also the 5th President of the 5th Republic, marking his 5th year in office. Welcome to the Inquirer, Mr. President. We only have an hour for our forum. Let me get things started by asking you something about history, specifically about Tori de Manila. Perhaps you would describe yourself as a victim of history before you became an actor in history. What is your personal position on the construction of Tori de Manila and its impact on the Rizal Monument?
And I went to Paris not too long ago. No? And in Paris, I understand they have a rule that says, talks about architecture to preserve the old society, the old society and the culture of Paris. So, on one hand, I do see merit with the idea that there should be that backdrop to Rizal's monument that should preserve what we have always known. On the other hand, I have sworn to faithfully execute all the laws of the land. And the other side, that does pose a legitimate question. It seems they went through all of the processes. Zoning is a mandate of the local government unit. They seem to have, at this point in time, they seem to have gotten all of the permits. So how do we balance the two? And somebody who can come up with the correct solution that addresses the rights of all and the concerns of the country in terms of preserving, how should I put it, the sanctity of the people that we are supposed to be emulating, is the endeavor that should really be gotten into. And that's why we eagerly await how the courts will also decide as to how to balance each and everyone's rights in this particular matter.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, the first 3 questions from the floor will come from reporters who have covered you. First, Nico Dizon of Philippine Daily Inquirer.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. This is about the Bangsamoro Basic Law, as usual. Sir, what's the worst-case scenario if a diluted Bangsamoro Law is passed or a Bangsamoro Law is not passed at all during your term, sir?
Well, I did ask recently both the Senate President and the Speaker of the House, and they both laid out, shall we say, some of the difficulties currently in passing the BBL. But they both expressed confidence that the BBL will be passed. Okay, so on the executive's portion, we would want to continue the engagement of our dialogue partners, specifically the MILF, and through programs like Sajahatra. We want them to experience, and the population in general in this region, the benefits of the so-called peace dividends arising from this agreement. So even absent the Bangsamoro Law, we are hoping that Congress will support the initiatives that will shower these people with the peace dividends and get them further engaged in the process. Having said that, we will continue to lobby with members of Congress to pass the law during our watch and pass it at the earliest possible time so that the new mode of governance will have the maximum time to show the effectivity or the efficacy of this new mode of governance.
Yes, sir. Sir, can I have a follow-up? Sir, on the ground, there's restlessness, and I myself am getting feedback that there could be, people who might start a war again, all because they're not happy with what's happening. If war do break out, who's to blame for you, sir?
Well, I don't submit to the premise that war will break out. I don't think there is any interest from the major players to re-engage in a bloody conflict. Having said that, there will be the spoilers who will want to exploit the current difficulties to show that their avowed aims of gaining what they want through violent means is the only way to go about it. So those of us who are advocating peace should really even redouble our efforts to thwart these groups who would want us to plunge again into really a pointless conflict. So who should be blamed? I think I leave that up to the Filipino people who will have an opportunity in next year's elections to gauge the merit or lack of it of the people who will propose themselves to lead various offices.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from Doris Dumlao of PDI Business.
What are your thoughts on the upcoming APEC meetings, and do you expect to bring up China during the bilateral and the other meetings?
China is a major economic player, and as far as yung things that are happening in China currently, I'm sure all the other member countries, including the observer country we've been inviting, will be curious as to know what the plans of China are with regards to issues like the stock market, amongst other things. If there is tension with the so-called property bubble, the valuation of the yuan, and so on and so forth. But we will be tackling mostly, it's an economic conference, so economic issues will be at the forefront.
Follow up there. Do you expect to bring up our case on the Philippine Sea case during the APEC meeting?
I think it would be more prudent for us to await the decision of the arbitral panel. rather than engage in this dialogue, which I think we have already stated our positions through various fora. So again, we will stress on the economy, economic issues, and specifically China's major role in the world economy and things that are happening in the domestic scene as it impacts on the rest of the world's economy.
Last question, sir. Which of the economic reforms under your administration do you think will endure whoever is elected the next president?
I think that all of them will endure, because there is an end result already that is demonstrated, is easily demonstrable. Therefore, there is a truism that says, "Why fix something if it ain't broke?" There will be refinements, and we welcome that. Perhaps there are sets of new conditions that will engender different specifics. No? But at the end of the day, this formula has been shown to be a success. And I think you do not tamper with things that are successful.
Thank you. The next question is from Christine Sabilio of Inquirer.net.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. The Iglesia ni Cristo protest is still fresh in the minds of the public. Could you share with us how it was actually resolved? Was there indeed an agreement? And have you been in touch with INC Executive Minister Eduardo Manalo?
I haven't had the opportunity to talk to Eduardo personally. We have liaisons that go back and forth between us. I did send the executive secretary to clearly state what the government's positions were, that everybody's rights will be protected, and that let me just check on memory. There were 2 points, but in just what their spokesman said, nagkaunawaan, I think represents clearly what was achieved. There were groups out to create divisions, trying to exploit fears, etc. And we were able to clarify each other's positions with regards to this matter. So we came to that agreement, and they recalled all of their followers afterwards.
Sir, could you elaborate more on what you meant about the groups that were trying to divide the INC?
Well, klaro naman, nakita natin sa EDSA, may mga tao doon, hindi naman yata membro ng simbahan nila, na nandun nagtatalumpati, mga kanya-kanyang agenda kung anong disgruntlement. So, magtataka ka naman siguro medyo, ang bilis naman yata na nag-react, na nakahanda na nung mga talumpati at makihalubilo at mag-contact doon sa mga nakakasiwa o namamahala ng protesta yun. So, parang naive naman yata tayo kung sasabihin na napanood nila sa TV ngayon at dali-dali ang nakipag-ugnayan sa lahat. So, malamang bago pa lang nun, marami na silang binubukay. Wala akong preba sa kasalukuyan. May natanggap pang, may mga intelligence reports tayo bago doon na itong mga taong identified with various groups that have been opposed to us even before I started in office, were participants in this particular event, trying to exploit it for their own and separate agenda.
Sir, final. So it's the assurance of the government that you would be handling the case fairly that made them call off the protest, and there are no truth to the reports or rumors that there was an agreement that about the case being eventually let go by the DOJ.
The case will stand or fall on its merits. And perhaps you can look at the affidavit of complaints, and as you yourself, I think, can assess, even if you're a non-lawyer, I'm assuming you're a non-lawyer, look at it and see whether or not it proves the accusation. Under our system of laws, the accuser has the burden of proof. So you accuse somebody of doing something, you have to prove it. Does it exist in this affidavit of complaints or does it not?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Sir, if I may ask a question about that. When did you send Executive Secretary Ochoa to Ka Eduardo? The protest started on Thursday, August 27. Would you remember when?
Thursday, I think we were actually talking to the liaison between them and us. We had meetings. Medyo nag-merge sila lahat ng araw na yun. Saturday or Sunday?
Yes, sir. They left on Monday morning.
Saturday or Sunday? Probably Sunday. Pero baka Saturday evening, meron ng Saturday or Sunday evening. We had a meeting in Pangarap. That was the time ES was talking to some of their senior officials. Baka Sunday yan.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Sir, the second round of questions in this Inquirer Inquisition, forum. will come from editors. The first one will come from our editor-in-chief, Letty Magsanong.
Okay lang naman, inquisition si Sunny at saka si Cesar. Just came from Congress.
Mr. President, I think Mamasapano was some sort of Waterloo for you, for your administration. I wonder if you have reached a closure, because since you said, I carry this to my grave, you haven't mentioned it at all, notably in your SONA. If there's been a closure, what was this? What event? What person? What insight? Whatever.
Yung Waterloo refers to, di ba, Napoleon's
Water-
defeat, and after that, he got exiled to St. Helena. He never came back, and that's where he
Yes.
died. No?
Yeah, but
So-
I know you have gotten out of the pits of Waterloo.
So, do I have
Have climbed
closure?
out.
Yeah. Do I have closure? I still have quite a number of questions. And there are various agencies of government tasked, to ferret out the truth of exactly what happened in its entirety. There's an alternative version of events that happened there, which is undergoing very intense scrutiny. We're looking for witnesses that will prove or disprove certain observations. There is a case being filed specifically for the death of the members of
44.
SAC 55 and others. No?
44.
And I refer to the company that the
Special
SAC
Action
40
Company.
well, most of those who died belong to, plus in civilians, etc. There is over 100, I think, that will be indicted over this. We're meeting
Over 100?
probably by next week
So
to get all of the specifics.
I understand you have already received the Mamasapano report, the OG-NBI report. Is that why you're saying this? These people will be indicted based on those reports.
I think there is an alternative version of what transpired. And there is a picture that actually came out in the front page of the Inquirer that posed so many questions. And that is what we want to resolve. However, there is difficulty getting the witnesses. I'd rather not talk too deeply about the specifics because it might really hamper our efforts to get to the truth of this matter. The complete truth.
Thank you. The next question comes from our DZIQ station manager, Jake Maderazo.
Thank you, sir, and good afternoon. Kay Secretary Purisima, there are newspaper and radio reports saying that DOTC is being asked to pay $7 billion in penalties regarding the LRT-1 extension contract. And of course, Abaya has denied this. But is there a sovereign guarantee on that contract, or at least a government guarantee, whether that's true or not?
Well, that is the claim of the private sector proponent, and that's going through discussions between DOTC and the private sector proponent. The DOTC being the implementing agency together with LRTA, carries with it national guarantee. But in this particular case, we did not issue a PU for that contract. Performance undertaking.
So which means that we are not paying what they're asking.
It's under discussion right now, so there
Yes,
are no
arbitration.
conclusions. So, no, not even arbitration. So I think they're in the preliminary discussions of the issue.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from our PDI business editor, Raul Marcelo.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I would just like to ask, to your mind, what would be the 3 most significant accomplishments of your administration on the economic front?
Well, baka naman dapat we should go further than that. I think if there's one legacy that we'll leave behind, from apathy to talagang vigorous involvement. From the idea that we can't do anything, let's leave the country, to we can demand everything of government yesterday. Yung para to produce what we want today yesterday. So that fuels the economic aspect. You've changed your perceptions of what you can expect in the Philippines. And I think that's the primary legacy, that yung, I stated it, I think, at the start, pwede na ulit mangarap during the campaign. At yung mga pangarap, nangyayari na ngayon. So, for instance, baka you'll ask questions about the traffic. Can I just reiterate the figures before me? The DTI says about 24,000 cars every month, additional. 100,000 motorcycles, additional. And we recognize that some of them might not be reported correctly. We're told that at least two major Japanese manufacturers can only deliver in a 2.5 months, 3 months period. Some models are 7-month waiting gap. So, all of us who have experienced traffic will note that these figures are not incorrect. So, it's what does that tell me? There are people, or there are a lot of people, who are convinced that they cannot afford both the down payment and the monthly amortizations, which means that they look towards the future as a continuation, or if not an improvement of what is happening. So that in turn gave rise to so many things. Our ability to challenge the established lobbying groups with regards to the sin taxes, the idea of a PPP that is readily transparent, and parang the rules are really clear, and that there is a good expectation that you do your due diligence. It can be profitable, and we can get the infrastructure we need right now, and a whole lot of other things. But it starts out with the main attitude that has changed.
As a follow-up, looking back, what would be 2 areas in the economic front that you think you could have done better or more?
Well, yung one thing is that pool of experts, di ba? For instance, when sa purchasing, when the AFP decides to modernize, how do we actually know that what we're getting is what we really need versus what a proponent is suggesting that we need to fulfill our needs? No? Para they get something off the shelf and they're trying to dovetail it into what we want. And I have tasked the DOST primarily to start establishing a cadre of experts on so many different fields so that we avoid the situation like in telepono sa barangay. Di ba parang the way I explained it to them, how much did you spend? How many billions did you spend on telepono sa barangay that did not result in even a single phone call? Could we not have developed the talent that could have foreseen the growth of cellular communications, for instance? No? And if doing so, we could have made the environment so friendly to people who would invest in telcos that we could have saved us the telepono sa barangay and moved our communications faster. So that's the dream. We spend for scholars, have them trained here, trained abroad, be on the cutting, intense knowledge on the cutting edge technologies that might have applications to what we need on very many fronts. Whether it's transportation, it's communications, it's new health challenges, and so on and so forth. So when we talk to people who can supply it to us, we can specify specifically to the intense degree what we really need, as opposed to them selling us what is available on the shelf.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Our next question comes from our PDI opinion editor, Chato Garciliano.
Hello, sir.
Good afternoon.
When your mother passed, the clamor for you to seek the presidency was quick to gather steam. It took many by surprise, including, dare I say it, yourself. But you stepped up to the plate. If you knew then what you know now, would you have been as willing to take on the job? Would you have dragged your feet or passed up the task? Or did you know even then that the presidency was your destiny?
No, well, let me answer the last portion of the question first. I wasn't even sure of running for re-election in 2013. And but it had gotten to the point na you felt like somebody like Don Quixote tilting at windmills. Or in Satya's expression, hitting your head on the wall, banging your head on the wall. Para no matter what you did, no matter what risks you took, no matter what energy you expended, it seemed you couldn't change anything. So I got into that point in time that you were getting to be cynical and jaded. Now, direct answer to your earlier portion of the question, knowing what I know now, would I have dragged my feet? Perhaps, I said, my mother, I think, put it best. If I could have done something and I chose not to, I would not be able to live with myself. And I subscribe to the same. So if I knew that we would be at this position, and you name it, the investment grade, the health insurance program that covers mid to high 90s already by this point in time, the 4.4 million households that are being taken care of by yung Pantawid Pamilya. Siguro, even the attitude of the two high school graduates who are now entering UP that represented the first core or first cadre of those that have been assisted in the high school stage. They're entering UP, the UP College of Engineering, Akuta course. And I asked the lady who was entering, sabi, you're going to civil engineering, I understand, why did you choose that? And she said, sir, hindi ba math? Parang masyadong ganado. And of course, I'm a lot of times challenged by the higher forms of math. So, to me, it's an question. If I knew all of the successes would be achieved, siyempre, I would have volunteered day one. No? But at that time, if I can just remind everybody, we knew, I read it in your paper quite a lot of times, the very numerous issues confounding my predecessor. And we knew that what we knew was a portion of what the extent of the problems were. So it's very daunting. People will be wanting solutions even before he stepped into office, and saka tangible results even before he stepped into office. The question was, would you be given enough time to effect the changes necessary? And in fairness to our people, and the faith in our people, they did. They supported the correct measures. And we are where we are because they were there always behind us.
May I have a second?
Thank you.
Can I have a
Sure.
second? Yes. Sir, lahat naman ho tayo nagbabago. Paano ho kayo sa tingin nyo? You're quite well known for being hard-headed. Marami ho nagsasabi, and obviously, if you take a position, you will stick by it. Paano ho kayo nagbago kaya nitong 5 taon na ito na patapos na ang inyong term? Ang tingin nyo ang pinakamalaking pagbabago nyo?
Mas marami na sakit na katawan ko siguro ngayon kaysa nung araw. Seriously, you're in the private sector, you're guaranteed 2 weeks vacation. Then you have the usual Holy Week, you have the Christmas. I don't have that. No? I think it's a perpetual question between my doctors and my cabinet. My cabinet more often than not, no? Who will advocate, magpahinga naman kayo. No? Cesar Purisima accompanied me in the trip to Europe and America. And several members of the media, both who were covering us in Europe and the group that was waiting for us in America, I understand, got sick afterwards with the pace that we were exerting. No? 2 members, I understand, of my cabinet, if I recall correctly, or 3 of them, who accompanied me on that trip, were unavailable for 2 or 3 weeks after we got back because they all got sick. No? So, how will I change? And then, that's true, no? Parang, this job really ages you. No? Number 1. Yung hard-headed, bakit pag yung, di ba, I don't make a decision na lightly. Pinag-aaralan. Sa tingin namin, given what is available, this is the best solution. Pag yung may advocate sa labas na sticks to their point, di ba? Parang pinupuri. Pag ako hard-headed, ano ba pinagkaiba? Pwede bang, kunyari, itong araw ito, sabihin ko, puti ito, bukas itim. Susunod na araw, gray. Pupurihin kaya ako nun wow, okay, itong tao ito, pabago-bago ng isip kada araw. So pag meron dapat ipaglaban, paniwala ko, talaga isagad natin yung paglalaban. No? Pwede naman ako nag-join ng bandwagon na, tsaka na muna yung BBL. Pero naniniwala ba akong pagde-delay ng BBL, makakatulong kanino man? Malagay ko hindi. O din nung solitary voice ako, in a sense, sometimes, so parang after ng Mamasapano, paniwala ko yun ang dapat tamang gawin. At saka yung kinaganda nitong saligang batas natin ngayon, hindi nakatutok yung presidente sa re-election dahil walang re-election. So yung mabigat na desisyon na baka unpopular sa ngayon, kung tama, magiging popular rin down the line. Sasangayunan na nakakarami dahil yun ang talagang tamang solusyon. So para makaabot doon, kung kailangan hard-headed, paninindig ako na siguro yung pagiging hard-headed. Pero yung panahon ng nanay ko, parang insulto yung tinatawag na balimbing. Walang paninindigan, walang ugat. Dito naman, pag talagang nanindigan ka, parang tigas ng ulo mo naman. So, gano'n siguro talaga buhay. Maski anong gawin mo, malalait ka. Kaya ako hanggang June 30, 2016, tatanggapin ko ulat yan. Hanggang tanghali lang po. Alaw na, hindi na po ako.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sir, if you knew then what you know now, what would you have done differently in your campaign? Would you have, for instance, ensured a victory for Mar Rojas? If he had been your vice president, how would things have been different?
Would have ensured. If you ask, if Mar were here today and you ask him, no, was there anything else I could have done to also boost up his candidacy? I don't think he can think of anything. None of my supporters or his supporters probably will be able to say, no, na sana ginawa natin to, sana ginawa natin yan. Of course, there are some theories na baka we did this, we did that, baka emphasis, but yun eh. Okay, what would they have? Well, from the start, you had a partner that, di ba, from the time we were both in the opposition to that whole campaign period to yung very good working relationship already, may kahati ka talaga literal sa trabaho. Okay. By the workings of our law, parang 1 year I couldn't appoint him to anything. Pag nakita lang kami somewhere in a public setting, kine-question na bakit kami nagkikita, parang automatically mali na mag-usap kami. So in a sense, we were deprived of his talents for that 1 year. And one can't help but imagine what he could have contributed if he had been there from the start. So I really subscribe to the idea that we had a very good team prior to entering the 2010 elections, from the days in the Senate and even in Congress, no? That it could have redounded to a lot more benefits if it didn't happen. Unfortunately, it didn't.
Thank you, sir. We're making very good time. It's only 28 minutes since we started with the President. Mr. President, with your permission, we'll have a change of pace. The next 3 questions will be more human interest questions. I'm sorry. Okay, sure. Yes, ma'am.
Human interest, can I refer it to the spokesperson?
Mrs. Magsana, ma'am.
I know you love songs, Mr. President. What would be the soundtrack of your 5 years in office so far? You were asked.
Siyempre, yung umpisa, Estudyante Blues. Pero in a sense, hindi ko alam kung paano si segue yung Impossible Dream na medyo naging possible. I'm listening to this song by a singer called named Elian Elias. No, she's Brazilian, and it's an old song. The more I see you, and I guess in a sense that captures what I really believe. No, yung parati ko sinasabi, basta nandiyan kayo sa likod ko, wala imposible. Referring to my bosses, and to this day I still subscribe to that. No, yung kung nagkaroon ako ng tapang labanan kung sino kailangan labanan, dahil naniniwala ako at the end of the day, no, kasangga ko, kung di man lahat, ang nakakarami sa ating mga kababayan. Kaya kalaban natin dito o sa labas ng bansa. So, I'm trying to find that song that says, basta nandiyan kayo, basta kahalubilo kayo, basta kasama kayo, yung pangarap nyo at pangarap ko, kaya natin maabot lahat. And I guess, I don't know, perhaps that's why I bumped into that song. Di ba yung the line is, the more I see, the more I want you. Para yun ang point eh. The more I get to the more I get to interact with my bosses, the better I think I govern, no? From the feedback mechanism to even the idea of getting recharged to face whatever the next challenge will be. Just the other day, I was talking to somebody. Tinanong ko, most memorable experience or baka most important challenge. Sabi ko, siguro parang yung period ng 2013, number one, hindi nawawala ng challenges, but 2013 was kind of unique. You start with Zamboanga, went to Bohol, went to Yolanda. No? Parang may confidence ka na sa after ng Zamboanga, wow, 100,000 mahigit na katao, kaya natin pakainin, kaya natin siguro doon yung magkasakit, no? Kaya natin palitan yung bahay na yung parang nawala sa kanila, at least the temporary shelter at that point in time. Tapos binigyan ka ng greater problem with both Bohol and Cebu na happening almost simultaneously. No, akala naman namin, uy, nalampasan na naman natin itong challenge ito. Kaya natin to. Binaba na kami binigyan kami ng lesson in humility by giving us Yolanda. Tapos kayo naman, na medyo dito na tayo sa tail end talaga. Parang iba sabi, lame duck hosting, ganun. May El Nino tayong very severe challenge up to next year para baka both of the parang up to the first quarter and a portion of the second quarter of next year. And what do you do about it right now when you can do something about it? So even before this, probably a couple of months ago, we were already discussing with the OST, DA, and also the AFP, because the AFP has the assets, yung cloud seeding. Which means, baka pwede tayo makakatulong ba kung mula na ngayon, madagdagan yung naiipon natin para pagdating nitong malalang panahon ng El Nino starting December, pero severe by January and February. And, of course, the other challenges, no? And the usual challenges of the pending legislation that we really are very interested in. BBL, rationalization of the fiscal incentives, and also the pension system of the uniform services, and the others that I mentioned in the SONA.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from our PDI lifestyle editor, Telma Shoson San Juan.
Can I refuse to answer on the grounds of self-incrimination?
Good afternoon, sir. Before I go to the expected question, I'd just like to know to go back to the 5 years. If, what do you think what would you have wanted to communicate to the people, but which was not properly and clearly communicated?
Parang hirap sagutin niya, katabi ko yung communications secretary. Baka
No, nothing to do with the comm group, but what I'm saying, because we live in a clutter of information. You have social media, you have traditional media, you have everything. I mean, this goes beyond the capacity of a traditional institution. But
yung challenge siguro is no martial law period suppression of information. Ngayon naman yata para may information glut. And how do you actually sift from the wheat and the chaff? How do you, what is garbage, what is really important? Managing information really is such a major, it should be a subset of people entering political science courses siguro, or people who want to get into politics. Yung hindi na sufficient yung the truth will find its way. Sometimes well, I guess it does find its way, pero sometimes parang the process is too long.
So, what is it that you would have wanted to tell, to convey that, you think you were not able to convey all those 6 years?
Parang, siguro, the times na buwaba yung ating approval rating, for instance. Doon nako-confuse yung mga tao. Pero at the same time, eventually, nalalaman naman lang kung ano talaga nangyari. At siguro yun ang hinahabol ko. Sana more efficient yung aming pag-disseminate itong truth. I just remembered, there was a dialogue we had. We went to Tagaytay to meet with the KBP, and one media practitioner said, we were asking, di ba pwede may balance, no? Kung may negative, baka pwede paminsan-minsan may positive. Sagot sa akin was, hindi namin trabaho isabihin yung positive, bahala na kayo doon. And to be honest, when she was telling me this, and even on the trip back home, and a few days after that, time to time, sabi ko, parang pare-pare tayo Pilipino. Parang bang, di ba, pag dalas ko nakikita yung mga comments of foreigners, so why do we Filipinos bring ourselves down? Yung my dad had a joke about yung alimango na nasa San Francisco with the fisherman. If you want me to share it, I'll share it. There was a pail row of crabs, no? There was an American guy in the bar and a Filipino guy in the bar. And there was a crab that was about to escape the pail. So the American guy, according to my dad, talked to the Filipino, hey buddy, your crab is about to escape. And the guy said, don't worry, they're Filipino crabs. And I didn't get it at the time. Yung pala yung point pa sa may umangat, kailangan, guaranteed may hahatak pa baba. So, parang, pag may nangyari sa ating tragedy, ko-cover ng 2 weeks or longer kung may interest. 1 year later, uulitin whether or not na-resolve na yung issue yun, whether or not nagbago, bubuhayin ulit yung dati nangyari. So, tanong ko lang doon, why do we have to wallow in a mistake, especially if it has been corrected? Yung, in the absence of telling the positive, does that mean the positives do not happen? Parang ganun ang point eh. And perhaps some point in time, I'll participate in a discussion with the academe. How do we move that forward?
Okay. Second question, people don't, not many know that you really love to read, aside from your love of music, of course. What's your reading material bedside books now?
About a third of my bed has all of these magazines and books. No? So, mga techno-thriller in the mode of Tom Clancy, Matthew Riley. And when I read, medyo yung parting yung pang-entertain naman. Pag yung medyo hating entertainment at saka educational, yung military history, various forms. May subsets, Civil War history, World War II, ancient and medieval warfare.
And, sir, anything on the South China Sea?
Yun naman, sa office ko binabasa yun. Although, then various publications, The Economist, Time, etc. You get, especially The Economist, but it seems I get so much knowledge of areas that are not normally covered by our own media. I don't surf the net, no, but I really like the hard copy type of thing. There's something that catches my interest that I think has to be shared. No, I point it out to various members of the cabinet, various agencies involved. Minsan natatawa ako, there's so much reading that has to be done in this job. Tapos yung entertainment ko, reading rin. So, siguro mga once or twice a month, my eye doctor reminds me of these medicines na dapat, I have a gel that adds to, parang liquid na tears, artificial tears. Nagdadry raw yung mata ko.
Sir, more than a decade ago, I think you promised me that I would get the scoop when it finally happens. And then we were talking and you said that after 2016, you're actually, well, you wouldn't mind if you face some things alone. So that means there's no more scoop.
I would suggest that you take care of your health para we have all of the possibilities for me to be able to fulfill my promise to you.
My health?
Hindi natin mapapangako next week to next month, next year. So, habang healthy ka, di ba? Habang may buhay, may pag-asa.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. The next question is from our editor-in-chief of Inquirer Bandera, Donna Policar.
Magandang hapon po, Ginoong Pangulo. Nasabi niyo na rin po habang may buhay, may pag-asa. People say hope springs eternal. That is why I will be asking you this question. Do you ever see yourself raising a child of your own? And what would he be kaya? Would he be someone who is into politics, or someone who is into showbiz, or someone who is into both, or someone who is in between?
Yung pinalaki naman kami kasi ng mga magulang namin, na in-encourage kami to follow our own dreams. No? And is it politics? Is it showbiz? Is it something else? Baka naman ako makaproduce sa somebody na maging religious, wala pa kaming pamangkin na pumasok sa at the end of the day, I will support. Number one, first find the partner, then produce the child, then nurture the child that he gets to the greatest potential. Marami naman ako imposibleng nagawa na. Yun siguro, mas madali-dali ng konti na.
Meron na ba, sir? Nahahanap? Or nahanap na?
Basta, matagal na tayo naghahanap. pero honestly, I was talking to one of our typods, no? And after yung topics of interest talaga, biglang out of the blue, sabi niya sa akin, mahirap mabuhay na nag-iisa, malungkot yun talaga. And the funny thing is, this is perhaps the second or third time, and we don't talk a lot, no? Second or third time, that in last topic, every time I get to talk to him, has to be something of that matter. Pero yun na nga, no? Bahala na Diyos sa akin doon. kung dito, kung may reward in the hereafter, kung talagang hindi ako entitled to any reward, hindi ko na pinoproblema yung point yan. Basta, ang issue, if I do get that blessing, no, I will support that child to, in the same token that my parents supported me to develop the fullest of my potential. So, where he will be happiest.
Okay. Good luck to you, sir. One last question, sir. Sir, nanonood po ba kayo ng Aldab? Or Showtime yung pinapanood nyo kasi si Vice Ganda, BFF ni Chris. Baka fan kayo ng Showtime.
Baka maraming magagalit to sa akin dito. Kadalasan pag nanonood tayo ng TV, mga sa cable na History Channel, National Geographic, Discovery Turbo, yung mga ganun.
Ni minsan, sir, hindi pa po ba kayo nakapanood ng Aldab?
Nakita kong picture, counted na ba yan? May humahalik sa TV screen.
Oo, nanood na nga kayo.
Okay, updated.
Updated pala kayo, sir. Okay, sir.
Baka sa inyo ko rin nabasa yata eh.
Uy, maraming salamat po binabasa niyo ang Inquirer Banderas. Salamat po, Ginong Pangulo.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from our entertainment editor, Bayani San Diego.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. How much weight do you put in the opinions, suggestions of your sisters, especially Chris Aquino, when it comes to entertainment and cultural issues? Thank you po.
Well, parang pag kay Chris, pag entertainment, cultural, wala naman discussion eh. Parang dating niya, siyang resident expert. But to be honest, all of my sisters normally do not interfere. Unless there is something, kahapon, Pinky texted me about, uy, laki na asenso nitong traffic, I'm headed southbound, ganito. Parang Sunday traffic, ganun. Or merong mga, may concerns na are brought to their attention para i-channel sa akin. Pero, nanay namin kasi noong pag-upo bilang presidente, sabi niya, bumalik na kayo sa kanya-kanyang buhay, ako nang bahala dito. Tapos nadamay na lang kami, may may baha, may pagputok ng pinatubo, yung mga ganun. Kung inatasa kami to do something specifically. Or nanay namin, di ba? Nagmamalasakit kami sa kanya. Pero yung malasakit should not be makialam. And I think my sisters also do that. So, if there are typical na sisters na para bang nakita ka, laki yata pinayayat mo o tuloy-tuloy pagpayat mo. Kaya, minsan nakakarinyo ako sa kanila na parang again, it's speaking, no? Siya si salad dressing na type ko. Paparinggan ko na, matagal ka na hindi nagpadala. Tas, and she actually has a calendar kasi hindi raw ganun ka-healthy Cesar salad kasi. So parang once every 6 months yata eh. And being typical sisters, no? She will call Yoli and say, Yoli, 4th day na, puro natural ingredients siya, walang preservative, tapon mo na. Para ipapalap yung ganun. So, again, they tell me the successes. They're like sounding boards, no? And additional eyes and ears. Pero ulit, yung tumulong versus yung makialam versus yung makipagkwentuhan na wala sa isay, yun ang talaga pakay nila.
Thank you, sir. Now, at this point, sir, the third part, we'd like to bring in the questions from audiences listening in to us through social media. So I'd like to ask the PDI social media editor to ask a question, Fe Zamora.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. We have so many questions here, and we have little time. And according to one of our followers, slow internet connection. So the question is, what is the government doing? What is the Ang Matuwid doing to solve slow internet connectivity in the Philippines? That is a question from Jester in Exile.
Slow internet. Well, alam mo, expansion po of engaging the internet, that is DOST's proposal, di ba? A lot of public sites get more of our people connected. So yung slow, there is no formal yet, no? There has been no formal study presented to me yet. But there is a question of whether or not have our telcos parang oversubscribe yung there are too many people under their services and too little expansion of the services involved. That has to be determined by both DOST and NTC. So we'll have that checked out. No? At what point is the study with regards to incapacity versus their subscriptions?
Sir, there's a follow-up question related to that. Whatever happened to the ICT? I think this is the department that is supposed to handle communications and internet.
Well,
That level.
it's an office. ICTO, di ba?
Mhm.
ICTO under the OST. There's a proposal for a department. I'm not sure that there is a need for a department specifically for IT. Parang currently, the ICTO seems to adequately meet all of the challenges with regards to IT, between cybersecurity, speed, connectivity, and so on.
Yeah. Sir, there's another question. This is asked by Teddy Casino and et al. What is the government doing to stop the killing of Lumad in Mindanao?
Killing of Lumad.
Lumad, yes.
Baka I should talk to Teddy Casino after this and ask him for the details of the same. There is no campaign to kill anybody in this country. There is a campaign to get after everybody who commits crimes, regardless of who they are. And I think we have an adequate track record to show you the successes of people who have long been wanted that have already been apprehended, and the process still continues.
So there is no tribe that is targeted, like the Bagana or Bagani group?
There is we serving the people does not entail killing any of our citizens.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now, we have questions from our Director of Inquirer Mobile, J.V. Rufino. Questions through Viber, Kakao, Line. Are you on, Mr. President, are you on Viber or are you on Line, by the way?
Sila Manolo Quezon et al. Are online to transmit my thoughts.
Okay. A question from one of our Line subscribers. He asked us to ask you if you have selected your next DILG chief.
Yes, Congressman Mel Sarmiento, I've offered the job to him. Former mayor, head of the House delegation to the CA. So yung transition is being worked out so that he is not thrown into the deep end right away. And there's a smooth transition between Secretary Rojas and Congressman Sarmiento.
Okay.
And of course, subject to confirmation by the CA.
And if I may ask another follow-up question from Laura, he was asking, why did you choose Mar Rojas over Grace Poe for your selection?
At the end of the day, yung track record, meaning experience. And I think I stated it categorically when I endorsed him, yung mahaba-haba na service ni Mar, nakita na natin ang performance in so many other categories. And as far as Grace Poe is concerned, I think she's a fellow traveler on the road down Matuid. No? But at the end of the day, is she as prepared as Mar? And I don't think anybody can argue that she is as prepared as Mar at this point in time. So I did propose the idea to her na, di ba, one of the hindrances to getting our growth picture consistent is the idea that sa atin pag long-term, 5 years. With a change in administration, everybody has a wait-and-see attitude, what changes will be wrought. But if we could have a system wherein parties are really platform-based and issue-based, and that there's a continuity to governance, then perhaps that enhances our ability to grow at a faster clip in a more wide-ranging format at that.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Sir, if I can ask you a couple of questions about 2016 politics. Have you given up on Grace Poe as Mar Rojas' vice presidential candidate?
Until the end of the filing period, I don't think we're giving up. Iba pa rin yung we get united. One thing I proposed to all of them was in 1992, when my mom was stepping down, those forces allied to us split into parang conceivably 4 different factions. Fortunately, their opponents who were less also split up into 2 factions, and that was enough to get President Ramos to win, whom my mother endorsed. So we're hoping that there is less division amongst the forces that are allied in Daang Matuid, and thereby ensure that there is continuity.
Sir, how do you read Mayor Duterte's renunciation of a presidential bid? Will that work in favor of Vice President Binay or Secretary Rojas?
I think that he is allied with us. He he has endorsed me in my various endeavors into national politics. So, yung parang I think I'd better reserve some comments, lest we haven't really talked. Can we get him on board really fully in Secretary Mar's campaign or not? So I might be premature in saying anything at this point in time, because I didn't have advanced knowledge as to what he would say. And to be honest with you, and naman sa sip-sip, I did read it in today's papers. So I think it would be best for me to talk to him at some point in time at his convenience as to how we can get together, if possible, towards continuing the progress that this country is happening.
Thank you, sir. Sir, here's a question from our Cebu Bureau. How does the Liberal Party intend to resolve the conflict of new and original members in the 1st District of Cebu, Mandaue, and Lapu-Lapu cities? I guess this applies to any other areas.
Hindi ko pa na-memorize kung sino nasa 1st District. No? But there are party mechanisms and involved. There are established principles also. But I think it would be best for our candidate to be the one to say. Because at the end of the day, when he does consult, sabi ko, I would normally defer to what you want, in the sense that you will be the one who will have to work with everybody who gets into office. Hirap naman na from the get-go, sa campaign pa lang, hirap ka na makatrabaho tumato, tipipilit pa sa'yo. So it has to be his prerogative. And I think for the most part, we have managed to settle these local issues. No? But of course, there is a truism that the lower you get in terms of the hierarchy, the harder it becomes.
That's right.
But there will be a fair chance for all parties concerned.
Are you open to declaring certain areas as free zones?
Again, I will defer to the candidate to speak on that matter.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, I have a question here about the refugee situation in, from the Middle East that has now overcome Europe. Are you open to providing asylum, perhaps, to some of them? Will you support an international conference on refugee burden sharing?
Meron tayong sa atin in particular, the Rohingya, the Uyghur, and UNCHR did approach us in the case of the Uyghur as a transit point. No? And I think our position is they make it to our shores, there is proof of their citizenship in another country, then we are signatories to various conventions. That the case in point is the Vietnamese refugees, the so-called boat people from 1975. I think we finished our involvement sometime in 1990. So we have proven as a country that we are ready to assist. And of course, there was an organization in America that just paid honor to, or rendered honors to President Quezon when we took in Jewish refugees in World War II.
That's right.
The plan was to have more, but
only one ship arrived.
And of course, we got occupied ourselves. So the history is, the culture is there. We just want to make sure that we manage it properly, that we don't take on more than what we can handle.
Yes, sir.
We are vast majority of our people are still living in poverty. We'd like to take our resources to better our people and do our share, our fair share. And that's the question, siguro, what is fair?
That's right. Sir, maybe one last question about international affairs. The Prime Minister of Malaysia is in hot water these days. He's accused of corruption. There's been massive protests in Kuala Lumpur. Have you been in touch with him? And how will this affect the participation of Malaysia in the peace process?
Yeah, I haven't been in touch with him, except to the formal meetings in ASEAN. And I haven't discussed this particular problem with him. So how will it affect us? History, I think, will bear me out. No? There was a point in time that, especially during our martial law period, there is an allegation that those who opposed to Mr. Marcos found training camps in the territory of Malaysia. What I know for a fact now is that we have Prime Minister Najib, who has been very instrumental ever since I got into this office in moving this peace dialogue forward. And we hope that this policy of Malaysia doesn't change, of being really of tremendous help in resolving this long problem that that has been festering since the late 60s.
Thank you. Sir, we have about 7 minutes. If, with your indulgence, we have prepared a little game. I think you've been warned a little earlier. This will allow us Okay. I was told maybe maybe we can have a couple more questions from the floor. Our day desk chief, Mike Lin Ubak.
Boss, kumusta? Sir, marami akong tanong. It's been a while eh. Sir, question lang, may vice na ba si Mar?
There are several that are being considered. But again, kanina, I was asked, you still hold the doors open for Grace? Yes. Has she accepted? Obviously, hindi pa. Sana tanggapin niya. Pero if not, there is at least two in my mind right now. Pero one that I'm really pushing for.
Clue, sir. Showbiz ba yan? O?
Hindi na natin matapos yung process.
Pero sir, mukhang tatakbo na talaga si Grace po. How does the entry of Grace po change the 2016 terrain? And would Mar win in a three-cornered fight with Duterte backing out? So tatlo na lang sila. Yeah.
I think yung babalik tayo dito, no? Yan may na-espouse ng aming grupo. May continuity. And how does one argue with success? Yeah. So, in our case, para may proven quantity, ito na na-produce. And paniwala namin starting block pa lang to. Yung those who will come up, after us, they continue the programs and the reforms that have been happening. They stand on our shoulders. You get to a higher level at a quicker pace. And everybody who does not subscribe to that will have to explain what is your vision of something better than what is already happening. Let me just stress that, no. May place in Bukidnon, and si Bam Aquino, my cousin, went there. He was invited. Tapos agricultural area producing cabbage, if I'm not mistaken. So what Bam told me was, half of the road is finished. Para may portion maganda, may portion hindi. May karatula says, by such and such a date, mabubuo na to. Now the community says, 50 years na kami naghihintay. 50 years na kami naghihintay para magkaroon ng karsada dito. Ngayon, nandiyan na. Sa yung karsada, para mas madali na ibaba yung produce, which is cabbage, I must made to understand. Pero ang dagdag pa doon, Bam says the area is like Baguio in terms of being cool. So the idea of yung a tourism venue suddenly becoming available. So yung mga tao doon nakikita na ang laking change nangyayari na at mangyayari dito sa ating lipunan. So those who are espousing, lalo na yung opposition sa amin, yung tinayo namin, siyempre baliktad dahil opposition sila. Paano yung kabaliktad nila, magre-resulta na maganda para sa ating mga kababayan. Yun ang challenge ito mga competitor natin. So enhanced, I guess, enhanced yung pagtakbo ni Mar.
But would Mar win in a three-cornered fight between Binay
Yung
and
mag-umpisa tayo siguro, ano ba yung tamang gawin? No? Sino man dapat suportahan? Tapos sa dulo nun, paniwala natin. Nakasandal kami sa mga boss eh. That's why, di ba, in one of my speeches, I said, kung next year, referendum, tama ba ginawa namin? Mali ba ginawa namin? Tama ginawa namin, babalik nyo yung susunod na hilera namin. Kung mali ginawa namin, sisantihin nyo kami. Karapatan nila yan. At kung palagay nila tama, handa rin akong makiambag pa tapos na.
Sir, corruption has ebbed under your term but is far from over. How do you intend to ensure that it would not be business as usual when you step down in June 2016? And with JP out and now in the Senate, back in the Senate, some doubt that the current trial would lead to conviction. Is this fear or doubt misplaced? And would you want a conviction before your term ends?
Conviction, yung would I want. Yung what I want and what I can get, medyo makalayo yun. Eh. sa totoo lang, no? Yes, again, probably I read it in your paper. There's a letter to the editor complaining about the length of time it takes, no, to conduct trials. Merong constitutional provision, for instance, about even the Supreme Court having a 2-year max period, no, to render judgment. Pero may nagsasabi mga pilosopong abogado, siyempre sila rin nagsasabi kailan mag-uumpisa yung start ng 2 years. So, how do I ensure? There was somebody in Naga who asked me, young lady, says, beneficiary ako ng Pantawid Pamilya. Paano mo gagarantiyahin na magpapatuloy ito pagbaba mo? So, paano nga ba gagarantiyahin by Noynoy Aquino by himself? No? So, sagot ko sa kanya, dito sa sistema natin, kayo magbibigay pahintulot, may mamahala sa atin eh. So, tayo magsisiguradong, di ba, yun nga po, referendum next year, tama ba ginawa namin? Hindi. Paano magpapatuloy? Di-elect nyo yung nangangako magpapatuloy, imbis na yung magkokontra. O rin magbabalik na tayo. Will yung the corruption fight ebb, no? That depends on the people. Okay lang ba sa inyo? Eh kung hindi okay sa inyo, di habulin nyo yung, di ba? Yung suportahan nyo yung mga taong hahabol dito sa mga palagay nyo nagkamali sa atin. Ako mag-isa, ano ba magagawa ko? Palagay ko, may pushback ako by next year. Lahat ng binunggo kong mabibigat, wala ka ng immunity, ganito at ganyan. Ulan na ako nakaliwat ka ng kaso. So, ang tanong naman dito, no, okay ba sa tao yun? Akong naging mukha ng laban natin, so, parang, will you throw me to the lions? And I don't think the people will do that.
So sir, yung follow-up lang, prepared po kayo dun sa what Lacerda was saying, a universe of possibility that you will be charged after you step down?
Merong nagdedemanda na sa akin ngayon na may immunity ako. Na siyempre, siya, tsaka yung abogado niya, dapat yata ma-examine. Bakit na bawal nga, ginagawa mo. So patunay lang yata yung mga akusasyon namin sa kanya na mali nga yata yung mga pinagagawa niya. Kasi hanggang ngayon, hindi pa naman sumunod sa batas eh. Dati pa mambabatas.
Sir, quick lang, moving forward, what has happened after Yolanda? What's the new policy after Yolanda? And what's the message that you'll be bringing to Paris for the Climate Change Conference?
Hindi pa kami sure na tutuloy doon sa COP21. Yung we're gonna be experiencing talagang the severity of El Nino starting December. Okay. Yolanda, it's a continuing process, no? Ang dami nating communities on the coastline. Ang daming pag tinignan mo yung mga pinakita ng Pag-asa tsaka ng DOST na danger areas, especially in the coastline, parang halos wala na yata natira. Tapos yung matanong, saan ba natin ililipat kung unsafe dyan? So, yung large, para masabihin doon, nagiging mas fine and fine yung scale para mahanap ka sa pag sinabi natin build back better, saan ba dapat ilocate itong mga communities?
So yung 40-meter na easement, sir, i-implement natin yung 2013?
Well, that's only part of it. Kasi merong, di ba, from the sea, meron yung bababa from the mountains, meron pag nagtagpo yung dalawa. So lahat ng scenario yun, parang safe ka from the sea, meaning storm surge. Safe ka from flood. Kailangan safe ka from both. Safe ka kung magla-landslide. Safe ka from yung, for instance, yung sa Mayon, may permanent exclusion zone na binalikan ng mga tao, which is 6 kilometers if my memory is correct. No? Eh, basta naglabas sa usok, parang meron ng poisonous element kaagad doon. At matagal-tagal na yung exclusion zone na yun. Pero pag matagal-tagal na hindi kumilos si Mayon, balik yung tao.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
May phone-in lang si ma'am, yung FOI daw, ano daw, bill. Phone-in.
There's no change in FOI. No?
Whisper pala.
We've submitted our position. We can live with the version based on those amendments. And I think the question should be brought to Congress and to the Senate rather than to us. Kami okay na with the version as amended.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, I hope you don't mind my pointing out, but the difference in your answer between the BBL and the FOI is, well, there is a difference.
Parang, di ba, priority ko si BBL, priority ko si economic, yung fiscal incentives, rationalization. Priority ko yung pension, na walang pension system for the uniform services. I think by last count, something like 24 or 25 priority ko. At medyo bitin pa akong yung certifying urgent. Sabi naman ng Kongreso, ano ba talaga importante lahat dito? You want all 25? You want all 30? Ano ba pinaka-immediate sana ngayon mangyari? Medyo kinakapusan tayo ng oras doon sa BBL for them to show na bagong governance will result into better situation for all of them. Yung hampering our growth is that rationalization of fiscal incentives. Yung pension system is, how many trillion? We need 1.3 or 1.8 trillion to fund the pension system of the uniform services, and a high of 4 or 5 trillion. Yung budget natin is 3 trillion. So hanggang hindi natin pinopondohan yan, the people that we're getting in now fall in that automatic indexing situation, which compounds the problem.
Thank you, sir. We have two questions from the Malacanang Press Corps, which will be read by Juliet Javellana.
Sir, actually, some of these I have answered. I'll just read the second half of this question from Lay Alves from GMA7. Has the Office of the President received a notice from the Office of the Ombudsman asking for comment on the Ombudsman's probe on the DAP.
Yung technicality dyan, para pag nagkaroon ng preliminary investigation, doon sila magpapadala. Hindi clear kung padadalan ako dahil I'm supposed to be immune from suit while in office. So, but the direct answer is, to the best of my knowledge, wala pa kami natatanggap at wala kami in-expect na matanggap hanggang hindi pa na-conclude yung preliminary investigation nila.
Thank you, sir. The second question is from Au Kalika from Philippine Star. I know you said that you're prepared to wait for Lenny, but she's asking if are you going to call a caucus to select the vice president for MAR? Because apparently Senator Poe is preferred to run for president.
Do we need a caucus to tell Mar who should be his running mate? Palagay ko hindi ganun ang process eh. I think I did say in my endorsement speech for him that he has the right to choose whom he thinks should be his partner. And I think the whole party will recognize that, okay, may consensus tayo on who our standard bearer will be. And then once that is decided, then he should be given the reins to run the campaign.
Sir, my quick questions lang, follow-up lang. Are you inclined to choose Lenny Robredo if in case Senator Grace declines to run for vice president?
Yung marami nang sinacrifice si Lenny, no? Palagay ko, the least I owe it to her will have to have, if Mar decides it's Lenny, then we talk to Lenny before we tell anybody else. Imbis naman na dagdagan pa namin yung pressure kay Lenny at this point in time.
Okay. Sir, and last on the Mamasapano picture that you were talking about, I think you're referring to this photo of Marwan in the hut when he was killed. Does this, are you saying that this indicates a different version of what we already learned, that this is a massacre or something?
Parang certain quarters did point out certain questions that arise from that picture. Does this support the so-called official version of what transpired? Or does it not? Ngayon, if it doesn't support, can it be explained?
Okay.
Or it cannot be explained. That is an ongoing process. There is no conclusion at this point.
So that's being investigated or pursued right now?
Please don't ask me the specifics because part of it
yeah.
is getting all the witnesses.
Okay.
And I'm sure if there are witnesses who are supposed to be able to render or offer testimony in certain aspects. If we say any description of them, we are looking for them, and I'm sure other parties are looking for them also. Baka naman mahirapan pa kami hanapin sila. Lalo tayong mahirapan na masigurado malaman ko ano talaga nangyari in its entirety.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And one question from our PDI Managing Editor, Joey Nolasco.
Mr. President, I know you're open to all possibilities. And after 5 years in office, you've learned that in the Philippines, the unexpected is to be expected. What do you think of a Binay presidency?
Alam mo, siguro, pang-expand ko lang yung kanina, no? Sabi, di ba, nag-resign sa akin one line. Tapos ang dami na sinasabi from that period on. Ang dali naman pakitang may katotohanan ba doon sa sinasabi niya. I was asked in an ambush interview what I expected him to say that afternoon. I think this was before the Cavite speech. And sabi ko, sana he just tells the truth. Okay na ako doon. If you believe in democracy, my parents did tell me, and my father in particular said, the true test of a democracy is your ability to defend the rights of even the people who are in opposition to or you don't like. Actually, I think he said, defending the rights of your enemies is the true test of a democracy. Defending the rights of your friends is the easiest thing to do. Okay. Now, am I saying the BP is my enemy? Hindi. No. But I do believe that he said he is the head of the opposition, and yung parang di ba? I oppose everything you did. O, define. So sana, yung ginawa namin, yun kaya referendum eh. Ito, ginawa namin, palagay mo, baliktad ang tama. Pero 5 taon, palagay niya, tama. No? So, bahala ang taong bayan, di ba? At may karapatan taong bayan. Yung amin bang ginawa ang tama o yung pinapangako niyang, may pinapangako na nga ba? Yung isasangguni raw sa inyo, yung ba mas tama? or yung ba ang tama? At baka mali ba kami? So, the campaign will make that even more glaring, no? Yung pinagkaiba ng pananaw namin. At ang taong bayan may karapatan or sole right to decide who should run this country.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I'm afraid we have...
Baka lumabas lang yung aming computer illiteracy dito at amongst other things.
This is actually just another way to get to know you better, Mr. President. Mr. President, and also to have you give answers to how many items do we have? 10 items. But Mr. President, this game is so complicated. I lack the skill set to do this. So I'm going to call on our radio anchor and editor-in-chief of Inquirer Libre, Chito de la Vega, who will serve as game master.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Actually, we prepared 50 questions, pero swerte kayong malakas kayo kay Nico, 10 na lang. So this is a matchmaking game. No. It's not matchmaking. It's match a word to a hashtag. And I've heard that the President has been instructed of what a hashtag means, pero alam na raw niya yun dati pa. Okay? So ganito ang ano natin. I will say a word, and the President will choose among the hashtags that we have provided. Okay?
Yung group dito, corned beef hash lang ang alam ko.
Sir, nabubuko tayo dyan sa ano natin. Computer literacy. Okay, so 10 words na ano. We're preparing just the hashtags. I believe may nagsabi na kay Presidente yung hashtag, ha? Hindi lang core hash. Yun na. Yan na. Let me just state na si Nico at saka si Tyne ang nag-prepare nito, hindi ako. Okay. The hashtags, so the first word, at mamimili si Pangulo ng hashtag is Noynoy Aquino. Anong gusto nyong, tingin nyo pag Noynoy Aquino, anong hashtag ang dapat dyan? Ulit.
Hindi, okay na.
Meron na napili si Pangulo.
LOL.
LOL.
Sana tama pagkaintindi ko ng LOL.
Teka lang, ano ba pagkaalam nyo ng ano?
Di ba lots of love yun?
Lots of love! Oy! So, Noynoy Aquino, hashtag lots of love. That's my president.
Thank you po sa inyo lahat.
Second word, Inquirer.
Same choices ba?
Yes, sir. Okay. Mimili kayo dyan. Inquirer. Yan yung complete. No repetition, sir, ha? So, wala na yung lots of love.
Yun nga, siguro it's complicated.
It's complicated. First thing sa usap niya, it's complicated. Next word, German Shepherd.
German Shepherd?
Explain namin after this. Parang nahirapan si Pangulo bigla.
Yung nagkaroon ako ng German Shepherd
recently. Yun na nga, sir. Kaya namin tinatanong.
4 months old pa lang, hindi pa pwede i-train. Kaya...
May bagong aso si Pangulo. It's a German, half Shepherd. It's a German Shepherd.
Totoo meron ng aso ngayon.
Totoong aso.
Siguro. Para sa yung beautiful, it's really a beautiful dog.
Beautiful. Sir, ano ba? Is it a male or female?
Male.
It's a male. Yan. Okay. Buti na lang hindi in a relationship sinagot niyo, sir. Mar Rojas.
Yan. Inspiring.
Ang bilis, sir, ha? Laila de Lima.
Siguro yung love pa more.
Love pa more? Next is Grace Po.
Yan nasa tamang panahon.
Vice President Jejo Marbinay.
Yun ang number one, di ba? Di wow.
Ito, pinakamain na topic yan, Metro Manila traffic.
Nasa ba yung may solusyon dyan? Closest na siguro yung move on.
Move on. Ito, July 1, 2016.
June 30, 2016.
June 30, 2016.
12:01. Best day ever.
Best day. And last, sir.
Maski half day lang yan.
Love life. Ang lakas ng tawa niya, sir. Kahit wala sa mikropono, naririnig.
Yung blessed na siguro.
Blessed.
If you are blessed, you will have it.
Oy! Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, we'd like to end by calling on our PDI Editor-in-Chief, Letty Jimenez Magsano, for maybe a closing question or closing remarks.
Dear Mr. President, for spending some of your precious time with Inquirer Multimedia, especially at this time, as the September song goes, these last few precious months of your administration. Thank you very much. On behalf of this the country's #1 youth organization.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we'd like to present you with a token of our esteem and appreciation. I'd like to call on Board Chair Marixie R. Prieto, Group CEO Sandy Prieto Romualdez, Board Director Charlie Rufino, and Editor-in-Chief Letty Jimenez Magsano, and Inquirer.net President Paulo R. Prieto to present you with our token of esteem and appreciation. Oh, this is the Sona? Huh? Sir, these are the front pages of the Inquirer on your inaugural and also on your State of the Nation addresses. There's another one? Yes, please. Very nice. Thank you very much, Mr. President. We have many more questions, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. But the President has shared 1 hour and 40 minutes with us instead of just the 1 hour. Mr. President, thank you very much.